Hey, welcome into another edition of the North Idaho Prepcast here on IdahoSports.com, episode 26. I'm Hayden Uhlenkott, your co-host. As always, this Prepcast is on Facebook, YouTube, and our X account. You can always tell your friends, tell your family. You can watch it after, no matter what. Catch it, if we, preview a state tournament or anything like that, you can catch it, see how right or wrong we were on some of our predictions. That's always important to see. I wouldn't recommend that. Our sponsors, Cornerstone Insurance, and let's bring on the owner of it, Ryan Scaggs. Man, it was a great week for North Idaho in girls basketball. I'll get the trophies. I'll tell you the trophy totals at the end, but it was a really good week.
Yeah, no, it was we showed up pretty well. I think, we'll obviously go through the main results, but I think overall, you should be pretty darn pleased about how things went. I know there was some higher aspirations at 6A with Coeur d'Alene, but I think, surrounding Lakeland and ended up stubbing their toe against Pocatello at 5A, but Sandpoint played really, really well, played really tough in the title game. But by and large, I think last week went really well. And there's a lot of exciting stuff going on the boys' side, too, which we'll touch on as well during district time. But, it was a good week. And you guys did – I will say this about our broadcasters, and because I was running kind of the tech stuff behind the scenes, listening to all you guys and doing all the check-ins and making sure everybody's on the right channels and stuff like that. But, man, our broadcasters just knock it out of the park. I tell you what, it's just you guys do such a great job, and that's something that we like to pride ourselves on, obviously, because we're in every district, and we had broadcasters from every corner of the state representing at the state tournament, which was awesome too, because we get to know a lot of the kids and the stories from throughout the year, and I think that's what really sets us apart from some of the other competitors. And plus, guys just do a bang up job. You really do. It's easy to listen to, and it's good to have on the background while I was working and stuff. And proud of the product that was turned out last week by our broadcasters for Girls State.
Yeah, it was a blast. And yeah, we can't thank you enough, Scaggs, the real MVP when it comes to IT, telling us how good we sound. If we were too loud, too quiet, something wasn't working. Yeah, you were the MVP. I gotta
dead in the water. Yeah, all the fun stuff.
That was fun. I love seeing the text chains.
Yeah, no, it was fun. I love I couldn't be down there at state this year with work and everything being as busy as it is, but at least have my hand in it somehow. So you don't have to listen to me, which is good for everybody else.
You were there, yeah. Couple comments. Sam Buffington with 3 of them. He reposted it. March Madness is coming. Yes, maybe there's some upsets brewing. And then 100% what he said about the Idaho Sports broadcasters. Hey, that's a good shout out. Well, let's talk about the trophy finishes. Then I'll hop into the brackets. When it comes to trophies, this is how it ended up finishing out. District 1 walked away with 3 trophies. District 2 had 5. District 3 had 6. District 4 had 3. District 5 had 3. And District 6 had 4. So from trophies, District 2 had the second most with the Treasure Valley. And then when it comes to state titles, District 1 walked away with none. District 2 had 2 state titles. District 3 had 1 state title. And then District 5 had 3. So if you add it all up, North Idaho had the most trophies with 8 bringing back home. That's pretty good. Could have had a few more, but it was super fun and super successful for North Idaho.
And you look at representation within the trophy games as well. The North really did District 1 and 2 together.
Five state championship teams appearing in that.
And then 3 in the third place game, and then 2 in the consolation, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I have to see it. We're gonna have to look at. We're gonna have to dive into it and see what we have. But yeah, very successful. But let's hop into it. 6A. That is the one that was at the top. Coeur d'Alene came in as the 4 seed. We weren't sure how they would do, just because Bora was a tough matchup. That was a big game for them. They came out on top. Brooksley Colvin ended up having 35 points in that game. They were able to get the win there. They played Eagle, and Eagle obviously seemed to be a little too much, right? They ended up winning the state championship.
They were too much for everyone.
They're good. Yeah, they were good.
Yeah, no, I mean, we had to like kind of pick who we thought was going to be our favorites coming in. Eagle was kind of my odds on. I looked at it, just the eyeball with the players on that team. I mean, hats off to the coach and all the players. And the Eagle was just dominant, and that was just such a fun team to watch. They could shoot the lights out. Holsinger was on fire the entire tournament. I look at it too, is like, where's the advantages coming in? And I'm not saying this to like slight anybody or to poo poo on a championship. I think there's a distinct advantage for the District 3 teams that get to play in the ICCU arena down in Boise the week before state to get those arena games under their belt. Because you watch the teams and it is, I mean, quantifiably, you can see a difference. A team going from playing in a high school, going into the arena and playing for the first time. You can see a quantifiable difference within and you especially see it with the smaller school teams where they're playing 2 games in a gym before they end up playing inside the Idaho Center. So I think that there is an advantage that you should probably look at. Like, it's going to favor District 3 for somewhat, just for having that depth perception, the hand-eye coordination of that, no empty space behind the backboard, of things to keep an eye on. But like I said, that doesn't take away from Eagle just being flat out dominant. And you look at Coeur d'Alene, game 1 out of with Bora. I mean, that was just a knockout, drag out, like bloody knuckle game. That was Brooksley Colvin was on, and then they played Eagle, and Eagle clipped them and pretty handily. I don't think that game was really in question at any point. That Eagle is just flat out the more dominant team in that game. Coeur d'Alene winning the game with Rigby. And I just look at it's like, you don't want to let a team beat you twice. And there was like a distinct drop off in that third place game where Rigby just took it to Coeur d'Alene and, came away with the third place trophy. But still a good showing. Getting a day 1 win is big at state. You're not going 2 in barbecue, as Brandon Bainey would say. That they showed up, they got a big win over a team that was a pretty equal seed. Just Eagle was way too much to handle. And Rigby, I mean, losing to Middleton, I look at that game and I kind of scratch my head because I'm like, Rigby's a pretty darn good team. I mean, that's a team that had a lot of complete pieces too, and they just took it to the Vikings.
Yeah, no question. They were on top of it. The all tournament teams were selected by the broadcasters for Idaho Sports, and they made their picks. So in 6A, Brooksley Colvin was on first team, and then third team was Natalie Semper-Mosnick for Coeur d'Alene. She was on the third team there. I also wanted to add your point on the backdrops for playing in the Idaho Center. It is extremely difficult, and if you notice, the 4 of the home teams won the state tournament, and the two visiting teams were Pokey and Bear Lake, and so they were sitting on the opposite side of the bleacher. So in the second half, the team that was shooting into the black backdrop had a better, I guess, ended up shooting better than shooting into the open stands. I guess it was just it's interesting how that dynamic works out with the teams and just playing in that backdrop, because it's so different. It's nothing like any teams have ever played in before. Yeah. And you're spot on. If you've been there a few times, it's a little easier to settle in until you're in the second half and you're maybe losing in a game. You're like, holy cow, this is a lot harder than we thought.
It does. It plays tricks on you. And that's, you can't make excuses when you get beat by almost 30. Like, I mean, that's just a shellacking with the Eagle Coeur d'Alene game. I'm not going to make any excuses there. And then you go into the Rigby game, they play in a high school and they lose. And that's just Rigby outplaying Coeur d'Alene in that third place game. But yeah, like I said, if you look at the averages, and this is something that's provable, you can look at the shooting averages. There is a distinct difference once you enter the arena versus playing at the high schools. Those smaller schools shoot better in the high school gyms than they do in the Idaho Center.
Only team I've never not seen shoot better, that shot better at the Idaho Center, the Kendrick Tigers boys team last year. Yep. They missed like one shot in the second quarter.
And I'll say this too: you go back 2 years prior and you go to the 2A game between Lakeside and Lapwai, they just, they torched the nets down. So, there's that too. So
Sean Kane in the chat says East Idaho won 3 of 6 for girls. Not sure we got there. I don't understand the last comment.
We did, Sean. We did get there.
We said 5 District 5 had 3 state champs.
Yeah.
Bear Lake, Pokey, Malad. Trust me, I'm not slacking on District 5 and 6. I'm on top of it. All right, let's look at 5A. 5A was the fun one, and we were left short of an all North Idaho finale. We really were. Lakeland came in and dominated Columbia. Yep. Really looked like, I mean, when I saw that score, I was like, okay, Lakeland might just roll the whole field. And Sandpoint ended up getting the big win over Bishop Kelly. Kind of looked like, what we saw during the play-in game with Sandpoint Skyview, just District 1 beating up on District 3. And that second round game came, and they were both nail biters. And Abby Lusk of Pocatello, well, she's committed to Gonzaga for a reason.
Yeah. No, like I said, the stars, when they shine, they need to shine. She shined the brightest. And Abby Lusk was an absolute force. And Sean put in the comments, I think it's worth mentioning, 2 3-point lines in the Idaho Center kids were shooting from Star, Idaho. It's true, though, because there's multiple lines. And so, it throws a wrench in everything. And you look at Lakeland, game 1 in a gym, high school gym, game 2. Is there a drop? Does that say that Pocatello wasn't better? No, Pocatello was a really good team. They were the defending state champs for a reason, and they went, 2 in a row. So, but that was a great game. The Lakeland Pocatello game really was if you talk about kind of worst case scenarios for Lakeland, it was, a bad shooting night, still playing pretty darn good defense. It was kind of a sloppy game where things were going around back and forth, and players on the floor, people just kind of, turnovers galore for a first half. And then things buckled down and really got interesting, and players are finding their stride. I was impressed with Presley Fagan from Lakeland. I thought she had, as far as climbing the ladder and making a presence known, for a youngster, she played a pretty darn good tournament for the Lakeland Hawks. They got third place. That's huge. They got the win over Blackfoot by 1 in that third place game. Like Pocatello, to me, at the 4 seed was kind of, I thought they were underseeded pretty criminally at the 4, but they also had 8 losses or 7 losses on the year. So I understand the seeding process with Max Preps on putting it the way they did. But yeah, I mean, by and large, look, we thought this probably could have been the most competitive tournament, and it looked really darn good. You look at the scores in this, these matchups, your semifinal game is a 3-point win on one of them. Your championship game, 62-49, I think was a little closer than the score says. There was a lot of free throws down the stretch just because Sandpoint had to foul to try to get back in it, and Pokey was just nailing their free throws, and Sandpoint could not climb the hill. The Hillcrest Bishop Kelly game was an OT game. You had a 3-point game in the consolation final. You had a 1-point game in the third place game. That just tells you the level of competition within this bracket was just, it was on a razor's edge, that the teams were pretty darn good. And especially the top 6 seeds or top 5 seeds, really good teams.
Yeah. Yeah. And I almost feel like it kind of reminds me of 2A. Like in 2A, you'll see it. 2A had 4 really good teams.
Yeah.
And 4, and I don't want to slight Lakeside. Lakeside was pretty good too, but there was 4 distinctly really good teams. And then in this bracket, it kind of feels very similar. Like the top 4 clearly were the top 4. Like they are really good teams. And, I know Sean talked about how good Pocatello and Blackfoot were the entire year, and it proved to be really legit. He also says Lakeland versus Pokey was the best game of the 5A tournament.
That was a great game.
Was Blackfoot versus Sandpoint. Mountain Home makes the bracket look a lot different. Yes, the upset of not having Mountain Home get into the mix, definitely.
And then look at Jerome. Jerome knocks out Mountain Home and they go on to win the consolation championship. So, that just tells you the parity within 5A, how deep that was, of a field this year, that, you have Mountain Home that probably could have brought home a trophy too, not even in the tournament. And that just says a whole lot about the level of competition at 5A this year was just, like you said, that good. There really was, 5, 6 teams in this bracket that had the puncher's chance at playing on Saturday night.
No question. Tournament teams. Abby Lusk for Pocatello was the MVP. Let me read this stat line: 22 points a game, 14 rebounds, 2 assists, almost 3 steals, and 1 block a game. Like, that's pretty hard to contend against.
She was a monster. Yeah, she was so good.
Mariana Bollington for Lakeland was the 6th man, averaged 6 points a game, 5 boards, and a block. And then on the first team was Presley Fagan and Jaylee Hoffman for Lakeland, as well as Brecken Meyer on the first team. And then on the second team was Jordan Tomko and Karsten Kiefer. And then on the third team was Livia Driggs for Sandpoint. So really good showing from North Idaho out of 5A.
Yeah.
Really,
I was impressed with Sandpoint, especially in that win against BK right out of the chute in round 1. That set up a really nice tone for that team. And, there's a lot of youth within that lineup. I think there's one or two seniors, 1 junior or 2 juniors, and then the rest are freshmen and sophomores. And Lakeland's the same way. Lakeland has that team that loses in the semis, takes 3rd place, and they lose 1 player off that team for next year. And granted, she's really darn good. I mean, Karsten Kiefer is a generational point guard. But you look at it and it's just teams that are going to be back next year. If you kind of let the dust settle, is Lakeland going to be back? Absolutely. Is Sandpoint going to be back? Absolutely. Blackfoot, I think, returns some nice pieces from this year's team too. That's another team to throw right back in the mix. Pokey's going to lose Abby Lusk. The cast of characters around her played really well too. It wasn't just Abby that was dominating. She was really good. There's going to be, a lot of these teams, we'll be seeing them right back next year.
I think there's a real world you might see those top 2 teams from North Idaho back where they are, if not higher.
Yeah, and I believe that Tomko had, 32 in the semis?
Yeah, here's a couple of comments here. Val Johansson, she's, showing her hand at basketball. Tomko against BK was unreal to have that game with no fouls. Incredible. And then Sean says, Tomko, not first team? I don't know. Maybe that's a discussion with Scott Burton. Yeah, how do you put up 32 points? How do you put up 32 points and be like, yeah, you're not on first team?
Yeah, no, that was, there's only so many people you can put there, but I get it that she was, there was no quitting that girl. She had a freakishly good tournament. Yeah. And you look at all tournament teams too. Does that predicate, will she probably be all state first team? Yep. I would put money on that. Mm-hmm. So, an all tournament team from a broadcasting team, it's whatever. It's, a poo-poo prize, but and that's just me making fun of us.
So, yeah, what do we know?
What do we know, right? But yeah, I think I wouldn't let that take away from the season that she had. She's going to be an all-state player, and good night. It was a fun tournament. I think 5A was just crazy. There was high drama in almost every game except for a couple. Mm-hmm. And it just made for fun, entertaining basketball. It's what you want to see at state. It's exactly what you want to see.
Without question.
Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, Sandpoint had it within 6 with a minute and 17 seconds or something like that to go. It was a 2-possession game. So you look at that score and you're like, oh, they boat raced them and it was garbage time. No, Sandpoint had it as a 2-possession game with a minute to go. And it was just Pocatello did the fundamentals. They hit their free throws, and that was the difference.
Mm-hmm. All right, 4A, the one team we have representing Timberlake. Timberlake, great run, ends up getting 3rd place. Kind of cut short with Malia Miller getting hurt in that first round game.
Yeah.
There was a ton of – I know we were so hopeful with Timberlake making a title run, and they were so close, falling 6 points short against Bear Lake and a team with not having one of your best players. Really unfortunate for Timberlake, but a really special team without question.
Oh, absolutely. And, that injury was in the first game with 5 minutes left. Mm-hmm. And, they go play Bear Lake, who goes on to win the championship, and they lose by 6 without their best player. And, so it's the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, an injury. That's just something that you have to overcome as a team. Because that stuff, you never know when it's going to happen. But it just, one of the comments we can bring up, and I don't ever want to question Coach Miller, but it stinks because she's so dang good. Like, just Malia is a freakishly good player, and in her senior year and having an injury prior a couple years ago, um, what could things have perspired if Malia was in the lineup against Bear Lake, and what would have happened in a championship situation? That, like, I really think that if Malia doesn't get hurt, Timberlake would go on to win the championship. That's how good and a difference maker of a team she is. But, like, Timberlake to go back and beat Marsh Valley and get third place with everything else that happened in game one, and to play the way they did against Bear Lake, the eventual champ, I think you got to look at this year. It's a success. I mean, overwhelming. There's nothing I would take away from this and just be like disappointed. I would be disappointed for the kid, for Malia, for getting hurt. That sucks because I've had knee injuries. They're not fun. And especially to go out, in the game that it happened and everything else, it's a bummer. It really is.
No question. A team that beat Timberlake this year. We'll get to it in a second. Lapway breaking the school record. We'll pull this comment up later too. Don't worry. We'll touch on about Lapway. It can't be forgotten.
We're not there yet.
Yeah. We'll touch on them. The only representation in the 4A bracket for the all tournament team was Macy Murphy for Timberlake, first team, and then Peyton Young, third team finisher for Timberlake as well.
Yeah.
All right. 3A.
Macy's gonna be back next year, and that's another player she's the difference maker.
Yep, absolutely. All right, 3A. There's two teams here, top side of the bracket. We knew from the beginning. All right, if Grangeville and Kellogg, they have a really tough road ahead going against a team like Malad. Grangeville does get the big win against Ryrie starting out. We weren't even sure if Grangeville would beat Ryrie.
I was impressed with that win. It wasn't, I don't want to say it was close, but Grangeville took care of business, and that's probably the best game this year they've played. And they looked so dang good in that game against Ryrie in the first round. Coach Barger had the girls ready to go from the gate. Malad's just that good. I mean, that semifinal matchup with Malad, that's just, those games are going to happen when you play a really good team. They go on to win the state championship for a reason. Was Grangeville probably the second best team in the – I would love to see them play Ambrose. I would love to see them play Ambrose. Because I think Grangeville could have been the second best team in this bracket, and they were the 5 seed. But like we said, kind of prepping for state, we look at Grangeville's record, and you look at who they had played. There was no slouches in that schedule, and their losses. They were all against quality opponents that were playing postseason, either in Idaho or in Washington. And that's a team that they showed up and they proved it right there on the court. Like Coach Barger did a great job with this group. Karis Barger ends up getting a trophy in her senior year, going out in the sunset. Coach Barger is going to be coaching in the All-Star game here in a few weeks up here in Coeur d'Alene, which will be a ton of fun. But I mean, Malad was just darn good. And but I mean, if you're Grangeville, getting a third place trophy, that's something that you can hang your hat on and say, we finished, we're one of 3 teams in the state to finish the year on a win.
Yeah, without question. I mean, you look what Malad did to teams. They beat Kellogg by 35. They beat Ambrose by 25, and then you lose by 19. It's like, okay, I think we did probably give Malad the best chance. Maybe Firth does something differently, but I think you got to be pretty proud of how they did. Tournament selections from 3A. Addie Vanderwall was the defensive MVP, had 5 rebounds, 4 steals, 10 deflections. And then on the first team was Karis Barger for Grangeville. The second team had Autumn Long, and then the third team had Greta Engel for Kellogg, making an appearance for the Wildcats of Kellogg. One comment I want to get in here, and Scaggs, you can tell me if I'm wrong. Katie says, but how about those Bears that just took care of business? Wasn't just luck. Is she referring to the Moscow Bears?
No, she's referring to Bear Lake.
Oh, Bear Lake. Okay, fair enough.
And how they destroyed the undefeated Sugar. Yeah.
Let's pull that back up.
That was an impressive showing. To do that to Sugar, 30-point win in the title game.
It wasn't 30. It wasn't 30. That wasn't right. It was only 8.
It wasn't 62-32?
No, it's 65-57. I don't think the graphic got moved over. I was looking at that.
Oh,
I
they
was like,
copied the same score from the Marsh Valley
I
game. There
know.
you
That's
go.
what I
Yeah.
was looking. I'm
Okay.
like, I don't think
I'm like, if
Sugar
that was a
Loaf that
30-point
much.
game and you're beating the undefeated team by 30, yeah, you hats off. But no, okay, yeah,
But
it's
still agree.
It's still
I
an
mean,
8-point. You're still beating an undefeated number 1 seed. Like, hats off to you. Congratulations, you got a state title. You earned it. I think Bear Lake had the toughest road in, and they took care of business. They beat Timberlake. You beat the team that's in front of you. Best player or not, you have to take care of business. They beat Timberlake. And then they went toe to toe with the number 1 seed that was undefeated, that everybody and their dog was saying was going to win it all. And you did it. I mean, you beat them. So congratulations to Bear Lake on a championship. I mean, that's well deserved.
yeah, without question. I mean, beating a team that hadn't lost in 2 years isn't, an easy task. So
Yeah. No,
I mean,
absolutely.
shout out Bear Lake, not
Yeah.
necessarily the Moscow Bears. That's boys district basketball,
Yeah.
up in North Idaho. All right, 2A. We skipped around. Here's 2A. Prairie, Lapway, Lakeside, the 3 teams from North Idaho. Prairie Lakeside played in that opening round game. That was not the score, 71-38. It was like 61-42. It was the closest opening round game. I can tell you that for a fact.
They copied the Butte County.
Yeah,
Vision
what in the
first.
world, Idaho Sports? Come on, Brandon. If you ever No, but that was actually the closest that was the closest first round game. Everything else was never close.
Did I not say that all the first round games were going to be probably 15-point plus wins?
It was a little more than 15, but yeah.
It was.
Like
yeah,
Lapway, 72.
70. Yeah.
And
I
it
told
wasn't
you
like
they were all going to be boat races, but yeah.
Yeah, Lapway didn't run up the score. I promise you. I'm actually being genuine when I say that they didn't really have to. But yeah, Prairie gets the big win against Lakeside, moves on to Butte County. Lapway and Oakley both beat the charter schools, and then they play in this matchup. And coming into that game versus Lapway or Butte County for Prairie, there was not a lot of confidence that Prairie would win.
Yeah.
And they came and they just dominated it. It was wild. Butte County was so excited to be there. And I almost think that got the best of them because Prairie was like so ready to play. And they just came out, they got a lead and ended up getting the win. And then this Lapway Oakley game was the best game of the state tournament in 2A. It was a phenomenal game. Lapway was down 2 with 6 seconds left. Madden Bisbee gets fouled, goes to the free throw line, makes 2 free throws. And then they end up winning in overtime. That was just a crazy game. But the state championship was even cooler with Lapway and Prairie. I think it was the 10th time these teams had played in a state title game.
Yep.
Also happens to be, Coach Mader's former team that she's playing against. Prairie, starts out with a 10-0 lead. And it just felt the entire.
They jumped out of the gate, and it was like the bucket was like 10 feet wide.
It was, and it felt like. I'll be honest, doing that game, it felt like Lapway was still playing better. It was like, I feel like Prairie's holding on for dear life.
You said that. You're saying Lapway's actually playing a great defensive game.
They were great. And it just, shots just weren't falling. And it's like, at some point, Prairie, and they ended up going into half up 5. And it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, they were trailing. It was, what was it? What was the score at the end of the first quarter? It was like 14.
In the first quarter was 10-0.
10-0, yeah. And then
and then
Lapway opened up on an 11-point run in the second quarter, and they didn't look back from that point. I mean, they kind of just they got back and made it even, and then ended up getting the lead. And the smart move was Lori calling that timeout there after about the fourth possession of the second quarter. She called a timeout, subbed in, and if I'm not mistaken, went with a little bit smaller lineup. I know that there's still some height on that team, but you talk about it's more guards to just try to run the floor a little bit on Prairie. And that was when they went on their huge run. And hats off to the coach just kind of seeing that. And maybe that was just a substitution that was going to happen anyways, but it was fortuitous, and they just absolutely feasted running the floor up and down on Prairie. Prairie wanted to get into their set, and Lapway just wouldn't let them.
No, Lapway forced Prairie out of their sets, and Prairie never could get into an offense, and Lapway just shots finally started to fall. So I want to bring up this last comment. AJ John says Lapway broke the girls' record for most championship wins of any girls' team in all divisions with 12 championships. and one of their players scored over 1,000 career points. So scoring over 1,000 was Madden Bisbee. Maybe we'll have Madden Bisbee on the Prepcast here in the near future. We're trying to figure that out. But yeah, 12 state championships. So going into the Saturday morning game, Lapwai and Coeur d'Alene were tied for 11. And so now Lapwai stands alone at the top. So really great. It was a great weekend for Lapwai Wildcats and a great weekend for Lori Mater too.
And correct me, like I'm correct in saying this, like that group, that fan base travels like nobody else.
It was awesome. It was cool.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
Really fun.
They use Highway 95. Let's just say that. Probably all the cops know where they're at, but caravanning up and down Highway 95 for basketball. I mean, it's like death, taxes, and Lapwai playing in the championship game. So, no, that's hats off to the Wildcats on getting that title and playing some great teams along the way. And then the Butte County Oakley game in the third place game was still a fun game too.
Mm-hmm.
And so, hats off to, Prairie and Lapwai being in the championship was just a big deal and a ton of fun to see two District 2 teams, two league foes, all the history surrounding both of those programs coming into the game. And you kind of look at it and the pressure builds a little bit. And, Lapwai rose to the occasion. It looked bleak after the first quarter. I'm like, holy smokes, is this going to be like the first game of the year where Prairie's just going to keep pushing and end up winning by a large margin? And those kids didn't quit. And they came back in and in the second quarter, just flat dominant. I think that was probably one of the best quarters I've seen from Lapwai. Probably going back to the Timberlake game. Is probably one of the other times I've seen Lapwai play like that, where just shots were falling, defensive pressure was crazy, forcing turnovers left and right, denying second chance points from the bigs down low for Prairie. Lapwai did everything they needed to do. They checked all the boxes in the final three quarters of that game.
Mm-hmm. All right, the tournament team. This you can blame Brandon and I for this if we miss somebody because we did pick these teams. The MVP was Madden Bisbee, had 16 points, 9 boards, 4 assists, 5 steals a game. That's a pretty good stat line. Yep. The defensive MVP, we had Sage Elvin from Prairie. She had 4 boards, 3 blocks, and 3 steals, 2 blocks. The sixth man was Becca Shoemaker from Prairie, had 4 points, 4 boards, 1 steal per game. And then on the first team for up north was Lois Oatman and Skyland Picard, and then Kylie Shoemaker. And then on the second team was Kylie Wolf for Lakeside and Taya Yearout for Lapwai, as well as Sydney Shears for Prairie. And then on the third team was Layla Syjon for Lakeside. So a lot of representation up north for the 2A state tournament.
Yeah, and 3 of the teams to the north were playing for trophies on Saturday. So, you talk about, we didn't even really mention Lakeside. They dropped the game to Prairie, obviously. They beat Vision Charter, eventually losing to Liberty Charter in the consolation final. But, for all teams playing on Saturday, that's a big deal for your districts and for representation up north. And hats off to the teams up here. Really making a great showing.
Yeah, no question. It'll be interesting to see Lakeside next year. Kylie Wolf graduates, but Layla Syjon will be back. She had a really good tournament, and Lakeside played well. They just ended up meeting a team like Prairie in the first round that, maybe if you were a higher seed, you have a chance of advancing in the state tournament. But all right, 1A, the last tournament, and this was also a great one because we had, again, District 2 in the title game. The 2 teams from the north ended up making it to the championship game. Deary and Nez Perce. Kootenai was the 8 seed, got a really tough matchup with Salmon River. Salmon River was good. That was the most points I think it was the most points scored in a 1A game maybe ever. I think they set a school record or a state record. And
that's
then
right. Yes, they did.
Yeah. And then Deary ends up playing Rockland, gets a win there, and then ends up upsetting Salmon River, a crazy win for Deary to win there. And then Nez Perce, on the other hand, matches up with Cary, gets the win, and then they beat Mackey in a game where I think they were trailing at one point, going this crazy run, ended up winning by double digits. And then it sets up this, state championship game, which was really cool. First appearances for, I think, first championship opportunities for both teams in a really long time. And Deary ends up coming away with the win as the 4 seed. This game was a lot of back and forth, and Deary was actually trailing in this game 42-41 halfway through the fourth quarter. Nez Perce went on this crazy run, and then Deary blanks them, goes on a 14-0 run to win the title.
Yeah, and Deary, I mean, what a magical run through the state tournament. They get Rockland game 1, took care of business. They looked absolutely dominant in that game. Looked so good. And then, Nez Perce, and look at Nez Perce too, and you called it like, this is a team that's just not going to go away. Like, that's a team, there's just way too many good athletes in that group. They're going to be in every single ball game. Well, they beat Cary, the higher seed, 47-42 in game 1. Go on and play Mackey, a team that, I think that they matched up with extremely well. That was we said if they can get through Cary, they probably will find their way into the championship game. And they did. They took care of Mackey in that game, doing what they needed to do to climb the ladder and get into the title game. But man, how awesome. And you see Deary beat Salmon River, and you have to think, like, is there going to be a letdown, like an emotional letdown because you beat the undefeated number 1 seed, the one that myself and everybody else was picking to win it all, and you knock them off. David slung the rock and beat Goliath, and they didn't go away. And they went into the championship game and just, going on that 14-0 run to close things out and go on to win the championship with a great group of kids, very well-coached team, and to get their first state championship. I can't remember how many years it's been, but to see the Mustangs go out with a title and an all-North title appearance in both 1A and 2A, just really cool to see those two things happen simultaneously. And a lot of the fan bases sticking around to cheer for the other fan bases and support the kids. A lot of them play each other all the time, and like AAU and everything else. All these kids know each other, and just awesome. Such an awesome experience for those kids. And, both fan bases have to be so proud of how these kids, rallied at the end and finished, because, Deary dropping that game to Highland. I was joking around with Sean in a text Saturday during this game, and I was like, Deary needs to send Highland like a basket of flowers and a thank you card, because it was idea. Like they were like playing so close to the sun in some of their games, and then finally losing, and then they just kind of, it gets them that push to where it's like, okay, we got the loss off our back. We don't have to play so tight. Let's just do what we need to do to win games that we know how. And they did exactly that. And so the Mustangs getting a championship against a league foe, how awesome is that?
Without question. Brittany Griffin says to be the best, you have to beat the best. And Deary showed up to finish. They Absolutely. Did. Nez Perce gave him a great fight. I mean, Deary kept getting out to these large leads, and Nez Perce kept clawing back. And they'd go on these like 9-0 spurts, and it'd get closer and closer. And that last one, I thought Nez Perce had it. I mean, like I said, to be up 1 point with halfway through the fourth quarter, I'm like, all right, Nez Perce has all the momentum. Coach Keene calls a timeout, and the tide just goes the other direction. You're like, holy cow. Other comment from Brittany, hats off to the Nighthawks. Proud of them as well. Tournament team for 1A. The MVP was Kaylee Wood for Deary, had 15 points, 5 boards, 3 assists, 3 steals. The defensive MVP was Helen Wilcox for Nez Perce, had 2 rebounds and 3 steals. Then the 6th man was Jada Jensen for Nez Perce, had 8 points, 2 rebounds, 3 steals, and an assist. And then on the first team was Peyton Reynolds and Allie Vincent for Deary, as well as Avery Lux for Nez Perce. And the second team had Peyton Ralston for Nez Perce, and the third team had Brooklyn Charles for Kootenai, as well as Karis Grant for Nez Perce. So a really fun state tournament, Scaggs. I mean, a lot of good, exciting things. A lot of
players, like we've read off, they're back. Like Nez Perce is going to be back. Deary's probably going to be back. Like a lot of these kids are just super young. It's the nucleus of these teams. So yeah, I mean, the future is super bright for a lot of these North Idaho programs, really is. And I don't ever want to look ahead to next year, but I think you can kind of appreciate what you saw this year, in the statewide. And I'd say this for girls especially, the underclassmen around the state, and this goes for all districts, so impressive. to see like some of these sophomores and freshmen that are playing and starting with these teams, how well they actually did and how they can play key pivotal roles within their teams and carry some of their teams to championship runs. And, or whether it's losing in the title game or even winning it, there's a lot of these teams that have a core nucleus of youngsters that just the future is extremely bright for some of these schools.
You're spot on. It's a fun state tournament. Boys districts is wrapping up this week. It wrapped up Saturday for the play-ins, and then next week will be boys state. So this week, that means this weekend is state wrestling. So districts happened last week, and there are a ton of people qualifying for state. Ton of wrestlers that made it. And so we want to touch on the top seeds in each classification and each weight class.
Yeah, kind of our hammer list, right? Our list of hammers, our number one seeds. And and I will touch on one thing on boys districts that we talked that's noteworthy. Post Falls, congratulations getting the big one over Lake City last night, forcing a Thursday night game at Post Falls at the arena. Post Falls wins and they're in to the state tournament. If Lake City wins, there's going to be a return trip to Lake City on Saturday afternoon. I think that's a 1:00 start. So one big noteworthy game there in district play for boys basketball with a lot of eyes on that one because that was a big win last night for Post Falls. So congratulations to Coach and his group. Coach Ulrich is such a good dude. And I see that series is going to go 3 games. I mean, I just look at it like, why not? They split in the regular season. They're just going to trade blows until somebody walks away. So, but going into wrestling, state tournament this weekend, Fort Idaho Center. It's madness. It's crazy. There's 12, 14 mats on the floor. It is a zoo, but it's a whole lot of fun, and it is probably the most intense weekend in the state of any tournament. So we'll go through our hammer list of number one seeds. We'll start in 3A. Number one seed at 106 pounds is Colton Story from Kellogg. I believe he's a tri-state champ. He's going in looking really good to get a state championship for the Wildcats. Caden Schaff from Nez Perce, was number one seed at 120 pounds. Not every day you hear a Nez Perce kid in the sport of wrestling. He's representing and doing very well for himself. Drawing the number one seed, number 126. Carson Hinkelman from Kellogg is the number one seed there. 132 pounds. Ian Schwecke from Kendrick is the number one seed. So these small schools, man, they're representing really well at 3A. 144 pounds, Kelby Harvey from St. Mary's. 150 pounds, Zach David from St. Mary's. And 165, Aiden Yearout from St. Mary's, all number one seeds. Congratulations to the Lumberjacks. I will say this. They have probably the best chance they've had in a long, long time of getting a podium finish at state, taking 16 wrestlers to the state tournament this year. And they've got some wrestlers that have very, very good chances of getting very high finishes. This is a team that would not shock me at all to see them on the podium Saturday night with a top 3 finish at state with that group. I mean, Malad, I know they're bringing a ton of kids, but St. Mary's is bringing 16. Kellogg's bringing 15. That's the most of the smaller schools in North Idaho. And, both teams are going to see some state titles. We're going to see kids bringing home some serious hardware from both those groups. So congratulations to both St. Mary's and Kellogg. Hammer list, 4A, we've got one number one seed, and that's Wyatt Carey from Timberlake at 113 pounds. He's going to have – that's one of the tougher weight classes this year in 4A. That one's pretty loaded with some solid wrestlers. So he's really good, though. I mean, he's a runner-up at Tri-State. He's found himself at that one line for a reason, and he's going to do very, very well for himself. At 5A, we've got 4 number one seeds. At 120 pounds, we got Carson Leonard from Lakeland. 144 pounds, Cole Cooper from Lakeland. And then 2 Sandpoint wrestlers at 190 pounds. Jeremiah Palmer is the number one seed at 190, and then Jackson Holman is the number one seed at 215. Leonard is a 2-time state champ looking for his 3rd, I believe. He's been a 3-time state placer. He's got really high hopes. Cole Cooper's another kid that placed last year looking for his state championship. He's in a good position to get that done. And then Palmer and Holman are just studs, dude. Those dudes are freaks. You look at them, I mean, they're weight room machines as well. At 6A, we got 3 number one seeds. At 165 pounds, Damian Hamilton out of Post Falls. 190 pounds, Brock Armstrong from Coeur d'Alene. And 285 pounds, Xander Scholes from Post Falls. Those are your number one seeds at 6A. And then the girls, Coach Val Johansson's got one at 235 pounds. Lily Marty from Sandpoint is the number one seed in that weight bracket for the Bulldogs. And I'll mention this too. The Lady Bulldogs bringing 8 wrestlers to state. They are in the hunt. I mean, I think the most for any team with representation is 11. Eagles got 10. Sandpoint, I think, has either the third most or fourth most. So Bulldogs, they show up and wrestle well, they're going to be right in the mix. And I think you could probably throw Val's comment up there because the North is looking really good, and especially in the girls' side, they've got some really good top 3 seeds within weight classes, kind of spread out, smattering through a number of teams. We're going to see a lot of hardware this weekend at state tournament from all classifications, because we're not talking about the 2 seeds, the 3 seeds, the 4 seeds, and the 5 seeds. There is a whole bunch of those as well. I really do look that there's going to be some upsets too, where you're going to see some of these other guys that are kind of hiding in the 5-6 seed line from places like Coeur d'Alene or from Bonners Ferry, that you're going to get some guys that are going to place at state this weekend and that are going to surprise some people. You always see those upsets every year at state, and this year I think is probably primed because of the depth of quality of wrestling within the state of Idaho. If you're a number 1 seed, you better be on your toes and you better be on your A game, because everybody else, you got the target on your back. And there's a lot of good kids in every weight class this year in Idaho's. I think the depth is probably one of the best years I've seen in a long time. Top to bottom, 6 through 3A, and then in the girls ranks especially is getting better and better every year. So yeah, best of luck to all those traveling to state. Safe travels for everybody. And man, we're especially with the 2 or the District 2 and District 1 wrestlers, we are definitely in your corner, and best of luck. More luck to you than anybody else.
That's a good way to put it. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, I think, in however many years it is, when it's in Moscow, that's when
29.
That's when we're going to shine. That's when we're going to shine, Scaggs.
Yeah, honestly, St. Mary's, if they can come out of the gates the way they've been wrestling down the stretch, and if their guys are ready, that's a team that could be pushing Malad. I mean, even numbers be darned. I don't know if they're going to get over the hump just because of the number differentiation, but 2 is a definitive possibility with that group. And same with Kellogg. I could see them in the 3 line. Either of those groups have some guys that are going to win state championships.
Yeah, it's going to be a ton of fun. And yeah, best of luck to all those wrestlers. And yeah, same with boys basketball, with districts wrapping up. Hope that is, hope everyone, qualifies from District 1 and 2. But that'll be it for us on the North Idaho Prepcast. That's Ryan Scaggs. I'm Hayden Uhlenkott, and we will see you next time.